Welcome to WestfordCAT's weekly news show. I'm Alex Svensson. October is coming to an end, but we have a bunch of news stories for you. Let's start with this week's top stories. Westford Public Schools have been at the center of an ongoing debate among residents surrounding Title IX of the Educational Amendments Act. The latest regarding this debate came when a Westford resident submitted an opinion piece, which WestfordCAT published on October 22nd. That said, despite its legacy of inclusion, Title IX is increasingly being misused as a tool for exclusion. Some argue that Westford's policy of allowing transgender and non-binary students to participate in physical education, intramural and interscholastic athletics in a manner consistent with their gender identity violates Title IX. This is brazen misinformation. Title IX's applicability to transgender athletes competing on teams consistent with their gender identity remains indisputably unsettled. As courts continue to interpret and define Title IX's scope, it is essential to also consider the broader human reality of inclusion. Sports help young people build confidence, foster social connections, and develop lifelong wellness habits, ensuring that every student has access to these benefits without stigmatization upholds the true spirit of Title IX. Equality, opportunity, and belonging. Transgender and gender non-conforming children deserve access to all aspects of student life. They belong in school and they belong in our wider community. This opinion piece was submitted in response to another Westford resident who submitted an opinion piece which WestfordCAT published on October 3rd, criticizing the Westford School Committee for their policy on transgender and gender non-conforming students, which the resident argued violates Title IX. That resident accused the school committee of discriminating against girls by permitting boys to participate in interscholastic athletics in a manner consistent with their gender identity. Additionally, the resident said the school committee allowed boys to access the girls' restrooms, locker rooms, and changing rooms if the boys decide that those places correspond to their gender identity. Title IX is a federal law that prohibits sex-based discrimination in education programs or activities receiving financial federal assistance. It states that no person in the United States shall be on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, or be denied the benefits or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. In his opinion piece, the resident refers to a federal court ruling in January of 2025, which found that the Department of Education under former President Joe Biden in 2024 had exceeded its statutory authority under Title IX by expanding the definition of protection from sex to gender identity, and the court recognized the rewrite as arbitrary and capricious. Referencing this ruling, the resident said that Westford Public Schools are at risk of losing federal funding by going against this ruling and violating Title IX. In response to these claims, WestfordCAT began an investigation reviewing the Westford Public Schools policy on transgender and gender nonconforming students and how they both relate to the Massachusetts state laws and how they relate to the rules set by the Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletic Association and Title IX. During the investigation, WestfordCAT spoke to Superintendent Christopher Chu, School Committee President Catherine Clear, and Select Board Member Sean Kelly, who all stated that Westford Public Schools' policy on gender was in line with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 76, Section 5603, Court of Regulations 26, which build off of Title IX by saying that educational institutions cannot discriminate on the basis of gender identity. Clear, Chu, and Kelly rejected any accusations that the school committee was violating Title IX, arguing that their policies are inclusive and not unique in Massachusetts, as all public schools across the state have to follow such policies to avoid any potential legal action taken against them by the Attorney General. They also added that until a federal court rules that Massachusetts state laws on transgender and gender nonconforming students violate Title IX, that there is no legal basis for Westford Public Schools to lose federal funding, especially given that they are a public institution and not a private one, such as Harvard University, for example, which was also recently at the center of a legal battle with the Trump administration. To read more on WestfordCAT's investigation into the Title IX controversy, visit westfordcat.org for the full story or watch a short video on it about the subject on our YouTube channel. Westford State Representative James Arciero and State Senator John Cronin announced that the town of Westford has been awarded $874,300 in state funding through the fiscal year 2026 round of Community One Stop for Growth program. The funding comes from 3 separate grant sources and was announced at the end of last month by the Healey-Driscoll administration. The awards will support several major projects in Westford that focus on improving multimodal infrastructure, expanding trail connectivity, and supporting future housing development. Town officials say the funding will play a key role in advancing work in and around the Massachusetts Communities Multimodal Overlay District, a designated area aimed at encouraging smart growth and walkable mixed-use development. Westford received $500,000 through the MBTA Communities Catalyst Fund to support design improvements along Littleton Road, in collaboration with the Massachusetts Department of Transportation's widening project from Minot's Corner to Powers Road. The work will help prepare the area for upcoming redevelopment, including a proposed 530-unit residential project at 37 Powers Road, and enhance accessibility through the corridor. An additional $250,000 from the Housing Works Infrastructure Program will be used to design a shared-use path along the frontage of the proposed development at 37 Powers Road. This element is required by MassDOT as part of the project's MEPA review and will also close an important connectivity gap with the town's larger Littleton Road infrastructure project. Westford also received $124,300 through the Housing Choice Grant Program to support planning for the Neshoba Greenway, a proposed trail that would link the Massachusetts Communities Multimodal Overlay District directly to the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. The funding will cover fieldwork, title and appraisal research, and community engagement to determine future costs and scope of the project. I'm proud to help deliver the funding to improve Westford's infrastructure and housing goals, Representative Arciero said. These projects not only improve safety and accessibility, but they also lay the foundation for smart growth that benefits current and future residents. These funds ensure that Westford's housing and transportation infrastructure can better serve residents and position the community for long-term success, Senator Cronin added. I'm grateful to Representative Arciero and the Healey-Driscoll administration for their advocacy and dedication to strengthening the Westford community for years to come. The town of Westford is encouraging residents, people with connections to Westford, community partners, and providers to complete the Opioid Settlement Survey. The town is seeking feedback on how to best use the Massachusetts Opioid Abatement funds, which are intended to address the impacts of the opioid crisis on the local level. Between fiscal years 2023 and 2025, the town of Westford received $351,770 from the state's opioid settlement plan and is set to receive additional funds each year throughout fiscal year 2037. Town officials are seeking community feedback on how to help determine how future allocations should be spent. Residents can provide feedback by completing an online survey at engage.zencity.io/WestfordMA. Printed surveys are also available at the Cameron Senior Center, Westford Police Department lobby, and the J.B. Fletcher Library. Completed forms can be dropped off at the town manager's office on 55 Main Street. The Opioid Settlement Survey is currently active through the end of the month, October 31st. Those who wish to provide feedback directly may contact Nicole Lavoilette, Community Wellness Coordinator, at nlavoilette@westfordma.gov. That's it for this week's top stories. Now let's turn it over to our reporter Jenni Bahanak, who will share some news with us about a recent flu clinic she attended in Westford.
Thank you, Alex. So the Westford Health Department holds flu vaccination clinics to help residents protect themselves from serious illness from influenza. The last clinic has already happened, but residents can contact the health department to inquire if there are additional vaccines this year. Last year, the town administered 693 flu shots with the help of the Upper Merrimack Valley Medical Reserve Corps, working under the direction of the Westford Health Department, Gail Johnson said, a health department nurse. Ray Dick, Westford's health department director, said the Medical Reserve Corps volunteers help the town by providing their time and service, which reduces the cost of doing the clinics and allows the town to purchase additional vaccines. In Massachusetts, there is no out-of-pocket cost for people to get a flu vaccine, and insurance companies will cover it. Residents can also go to local pharmacies to receive a flu shot. The flu vaccine is recommended for everyone aged 6 months and older, Gail Johnson said. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's preliminary estimates for the 2024-2025 flu season that ended in May 2025, there were between 47 million and 82 million flu illnesses in the country, and between 27,000 and 130,000 people died from the flu.
Thank you for that important health update, Jenny. I heard you recently had the opportunity to attend a service at a new church that opened up here in Westford, and you spoke to the pastor.
Yes, so there is a new church on Littleton Road called Orchard Church. Orchard Church is a non-denominational Christian church that draws about 500 people to its Sunday services. The church is located on a 17.5-acre lot that church members are naming the Orchard. They bought the land about 9 years ago. Then they built an interconnecting 3-barn building with a New England look. In March, church members held a grand opening. The church was formerly known as Grace Community Church of Westford. Lead pastor Rob Strong said church members want to steward the land. The grounds have orchards, woods, and wetlands. Strong envisions a future where the orchard has a public playground and hosts farmers markets and concerts. We want the orchard to be a place in the community where things happen, Strong said. He said that Orchard Church is open to anyone. Services are held on Sundays, and throughout the week there are also programs for kids, teens, young adults, moms, and women and men. The programs foster gathering, learning about the Bible, and helping others. Strong said he strives to make the church apolitical. You can get political leaning everywhere. What I am trying to do is invite people to something, and that is the kingdom of God, Strong said. To read more about the Orchard and one family's faith, you can find my article on the WestfordCAT website at www.westfordcat.org. Thank you so much, and back to you, Alex.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Jenny. Coinciding with October being part of Hispanic Heritage Month, Westford's State Representative James Arciero recently nominated former Westford School Committee member Marisol Garcia for recognition at the 2025 Latino Excellence on the Hill Awards, which was hosted by the Massachusetts Black and Latino Legislative Caucus. The annual event celebrates the contributions and leadership of Latino individuals who are making a meaningful impact across the state. Garcia dedicated over 25 years of her legal career to advocating for youth and families at every stage of the cradle-to-prison pipeline. Garcia has served as director and now deputy director of the Mental Health Advocacy Program for Kids, the largest child advocacy program in Massachusetts since 2016. Under her leadership, the program expanded statewide, increasing its capacity by over 600%. And placing attorneys and family resource centers across Massachusetts to support children facing mental health challenges. In addition to her legal and advocacy work, Garcia recently concluded her term on the Westford School Committee, where she continued her lifelong commitment to public service and educational equity. Marisol Garcia is a tireless and effective leader whose 25-year career has been dedicated to advocating for the youth, Arciero said. I was proud to nominate her for this well-deserved recognition, and I thank the Massachusetts Black and Latino Legislative Caucus for honoring the incredible work of leaders like Marisol. Now, with next month being Native American Heritage Month, the ongoing debate regarding the Massachusetts state flag and its Native American imagery will likely return to the spotlight. WestfordCAT mentioned the topic to the guest speaker at a recent Indigenous Peoples Day event held here in town. Let's turn it over to our reporter, Emily Collins, who has the story.
Thank you, Alex. The Massachusetts state flag has been a subject of recent discussion among lawmakers ever since former Governor Charlie Baker signed a bill establishing a special commission to change the state flag and seal in 2021. The commission was created following the approval of Senate Bill S. 1877, which invited Native leaders from the Wampanoag, Nipmuc, and Massachusetts nations to sit with state legislators, historians, and other appointees on a 19-member panel. Activists arguing in favor of changing the state flag and seal said Indigenous leaders have been calling for change for over 50 years, arguing that the flag's Native American depiction is seen by many as a symbol of violence against Indigenous people and a memorial to the violent colonization of their homelands. The state seal was adopted in 1780, while the state flag, which contains the state seal, was adopted in 1908 and only changed once in 1971. Following two unsuccessful attempts to change the state flag and seal in 2022 and 2023, as well as a UMass Amherst poll showing limited support for the change among Massachusetts residents, the issue fell under the radar. Then, in July of 2024, Governor Maura Healey signed a budget amendment to change the state flag, seal, and motto, with public submissions accepted during last May and June, resulting in 48 semifinalists. WestfordCAT last covered this topic in September after 3 finalists for redesigns of the state flag and state seal were chosen following the Massachusetts state government's request for residents to submit for a new design for the state flag and seal. After the finalists were announced, WestfordCAT spoke to Linda Green, the director of Westford's Museum and Historical Society, and asked her what her thoughts were on the state flag and seal.
I'm a fan. I love the Massachusetts state flag. That's the flag that's represented the state I was born in and lived in for most of my entire life. You know, I think that the symbolism on the flag reflects the history of Massachusetts. You've got the Native American in the middle of the flag, in the middle of the shield. That always reminded me of the first Thanksgiving and the Pilgrims and, that type of representation. And I think more than replacing the flag, maybe we need to just do a little more education about what all these symbols mean and what they represent in our history.
Then, a couple weeks ago, while WestfordCAT was covering the town's annual Indigenous Peoples Day event, WestfordCAT asked Nipmuc author and activist Larry Spotted Crowman, the guest speaker at the event, what his opinion was on Massachusetts state flag and seal, and if he welcomed the potential change.
Representation is very important because, unfortunately, the only relationship that folks have had with Indigenous peoples was through outdated books and Native American mascots, where these harmful imageries, where the fighting warrior or the noble savage, which is kind of stuck in this kind of time warp. And so these kind of perpetual images of us has brought a lot of harm. And so the flag obviously has brought a lot of concern to our tribal communities, and I welcome the change.
A new state flag, seal, as well as motto was originally set to be chosen by the Advisory Commission and presented to Governor Healey and the state legislature in December, following public input sessions held through this month. But when the topic was mentioned during a recent press conference, Governor Healey said that although she supports the commission that's considering changes to the Massachusetts flag and seal, she doesn't think changes will happen soon. In other news regarding history, the Westford Historical Society recently held its annual meeting on October 22nd at the Westford Museum. Following a brief business session, attendees heard a special presentation by Westford Historical Society President Leslie Howard called Once Known, Lost from the Ledgers, Westford's Indigenous Past, which highlighted Westford's Indigenous history. This installment of the Once Known series focused on the experiences of the Massachusetts and Pennacook peoples. Howard discussed their lives as praying Indians, the devastating impact of King Philip's War, and the factors that led to their disappearance from many historical records. Howard has served on the Historical Society's board since 2014 and has worked in the museum field since 2006, with experience at the Nichols House Museum, the Museum of Fine Arts, and the Museum of Science.
Thank you, Emily. Now let's have a look at this week's weather forecast. Another round of rain will be making its way through Massachusetts this week, with the potential for downpours and isolated thunderstorms. The greatest risk of heavy rain and thunderstorms is midweek, especially Tuesday and Wednesday, although there is still a chance on Thursday and Friday. Temperatures will be typical for this time of year, with highs remaining in the low to mid 50s throughout the week and lows dipping down to the low 40s and possibly mid 30s, especially at the start of the week. The rainy weather is welcomed by local meteorologists, environmentalists, and farmers, as much of Massachusetts has been experiencing dry, drought-like conditions for the past couple months, which has also had an impact on the fall foliage, especially the color and duration of the changing and falling leaves. That's it for this week's weather forecast. Now let's have a look at sports for this week. The Westford Academy Ghosts football team will be playing against the Concord Carlisle Patriots at home this week for their second home game in a row. This week's game will be held on Thursday rather than the usual Friday. The game marks the final game the Ghosts will play before the end of the season, with their Thanksgiving game next month. Having a mediocre record this season, the Ghosts are looking for a big win at home to end the season. Kickoff is at 6 p.m. at the Trustees Field at Alumni Stadium in Westford. The Westford Ghosts boys varsity soccer team also wrap up their season on Tuesday. The Ghosts have also struggled with an underwhelming season and are hoping for a big win at home when they take on Lincoln Sudbury. Kickoff is at 6 p.m. at the Trustees Field in Westford. Meanwhile, the New England Patriots will be back at home to take on the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday. The Patriots, who have been neck to neck with the Buffalo Bills for the top spot in the AFC East, are hoping for another big win at home. Kickoff is at 1 p.m. on Sunday at Gillette Stadium. Also this past week was the Boston Celtics' first regular season game and home opener. Following a disappointing end to last season, with the Celtics being eliminated by the New York Knicks in the Eastern Conference semifinals and Celtics star forward Jason Tatum suffering an Achilles rupture, the team under new owner Bill Chisholm is looking to bring back a banner to TD Garden this year. That's all for this week's edition of WestfordCAT News. We'll return on Sunday, November 2nd with more stories. I'm Alex Svensson, and thank you for watching WestfordCAT.